Taehyung became angry with Jungkook out of jealousy toward Jimin during the swim dance practice session. BTS had just released footage of the members' practice, including Taehyung and Jungkook, and it was seen several times that Jungkook seemed very engaged with Jimin. Naturally, this triggered Taehyung's anger. In several moments, Taehyung appeared annoyed and slightly emotional, yet he remained professional. Impressively, Taehyung did not bring his feelings of love into his work, even though he was upset with his husband. At first, Jungkook was unaware of the situation, so he gently asked, "Hyung, what's wrong?" However, Taehyung did not respond and instead chose to talk with another dance crew member. Watch the continuation of this video and don't miss it. Before we start, make sure you're ready to love this moments. Welcome to V Effect. The air inside the practice room felt heavier than usual, thick with the scent of sweat and ambition that drove every movement of the BTS members, as they immersed themselves in the choreography for the song Swim. Amid the repetitive pounding of the music, Taehyung tried hard to keep his focus on his reflection in the large mirror. Yet the corner of his eye couldn't stop catching the interactions happening on the other side of the room. Laughter broke out there. Jungkook's laughter sounded so free as he joked with Jimin during their short break. Taehyung felt the pulse at his temple tighten each time he saw Jungkook's hand land on Jimin's shoulder, or the way the two whispered while laughing over small mistakes in their footwork. The jealousy crept in slowly, like a small flame burning away his calm, yet he chose to remain silent, taking stiff gulps from his water bottle. He knew the cameras were recording for practice content that would be released later, and professionalism was a standard he always upheld in front of the lens. When the music resumed for the full-run session, Taehyung transformed into an intensely disciplined figure, executing every move with sharp intensity and stunning precision. Yet his eyes couldn't lie. There was a restrained spark of emotion there, a frustration he channeled into slightly harder stomps than usual. The other members might have assumed it was simply total dedication to the song Swim, but Jungkook began to sense something unusual in the aura his husband was giving off. Jungkook, who had initially been too caught up in the excitement of practice and joking with Jimin, began to notice that Taehyung didn't return his eye contact at all during the center formation. Every time their paths crossed in choreography transitions, Taehyung would quickly look away, as if Jungkook were a distraction to be avoided in order to keep his performance perfect. This cold behavior contrasted sharply with the warmth they usually shared, even under work pressure, leaving Jungkook feeling uneasy behind his stage smile. Meanwhile, Jimin seemed to sense the tension growing between the pair, and instead of stepping back, he became even more persistent in approaching Jungkook. He deliberately stood closer, playfully nudged Jungkook's arm, and offered small compliments that rang loudly in Taehyung's sensitive ears. To Taehyung, Jimin's smile looked like a small victory being deliberately displayed, as though the man truly enjoyed the thin cracks beginning to appear in their relationship. Taehyung's anger continued to rise as he watched Jungkook fail to set firm boundaries against what he perceived as Jimin's increasingly excessive behavior. To him, this was no longer just about friendship between members, but about respect for the feelings they shared privately behind the scenes. Still, as a professional, Taehyung refused to let his emotions disrupt the flow of practice. He kept dancing with explosive energy, proving that matters of the heart would never interfere with his responsibilities. When the choreographer finally stopped the music to deliver the last evaluation, Taehyung immediately distanced himself from the group and walked toward the corner of the room. He pretended to be busy checking his shoelaces, avoiding any interaction that might force him to explode in public. Jungkook, sensing that something was wrong, finally gathered the courage to approach after noticing that Taehyung had been silent for nearly an hour. In a very soft and concerned tone, Jungkook crouched beside Taehyung and touched his shoulder hesitantly. "Hyung, what's wrong? Is there a part of the choreography that feels difficult? Or are you not feeling well?" Jungkook asked, his wide eyes searching for answers on his husband's expressionless face. That voice, which usually soothed Taehyung, now felt like a reminder of the hurt he was carrying alone. Taehyung gave no response, not even turning slightly to acknowledge Jungkook's presence beside him. Instead, he suddenly stood up, causing Jungkook's hand to slip from his shoulder, and walked toward one of the dance crew members who was organizing equipment near the door. There, Taehyung began speaking casually about lighting details and camera transitions, as if that crew member were far more important than his own husband. The neglect felt like a slap to Jungkook, who remained frozen in his crouched position, staring at Taehyung's back as it moved farther away. He could feel the gaze of the other members, especially Jimin, who watched from a distance with an expression that was hard to read, yet seemed faintly satisfied. This was no longer just a small misunderstanding, but a massive wall that Taehyung had deliberately built to protect himself from deeper disappointment. Jimin walked toward Jungkook, who still looked lost, placing his hand on the younger man's shoulder while whispering something that sounded comforting, yet appeared provocative to anyone watching. Taehyung, though facing away, could sense what was happening through the mirror's reflection, and his fists clenched tightly at his sides. He hated how the situation was unfolding, but he was too hurt to return to his patient self just yet. The tension in the practice room became so palpable that even staff and crew members began to feel awkward speaking loudly or laughing. Taehyung completely shut Jungkook out. He spoke only when it involved technical matters and immediately ended conversations if they drifted toward anything personal. His professionalism was truly remarkable, because on the monitor cameras, he still appeared as the flawless main visual without the slightest imperfection. Jungkook, growing increasingly frustrated, tried once more to approach him while they packed their belongings to return to the dorm. "Taehyung, please talk to me. Don't be like this in front of everyone," Jungkook whispered, his voice trembling with pleading emotion. But Taehyung only glanced at him briefly with a cold stare Jungkook had never seen before, a look that made it clear this wound would not heal with sweet words spoken in the middle of a crowd. Taehyung then turned and greeted Jimin politely yet formally, an action that further emphasized how he was maintaining distance from the conflict. He wanted to show that he could behave kindly toward anyone, except Jungkook, who had allowed jealousy to bloom so freely. This made Jungkook feel isolated within his own group, a painful feeling for the magne who had always longed to be loved. Jimin saw the crack between them as an opportunity to remain by Jungkook's side, offering attention that should have come from Taehyung. It was as though he wanted to prove that he could be a more enjoyable companion than Taehyung, who was currently overwhelmed by emotion. Jimin's constant presence beside Jungkook felt like fuel poured onto the burning fire of Taehyung's anger, hidden behind his professional mask. For Taehyung, seeing Jimin appear happy over his inner suffering felt like an insult to the relationship they had built over years. He knew Jimin might not truly have malicious intentions, but in his unstable emotional state, everything felt like a calculated attack. Taehyung decided to stand firm, refusing to surrender his pain until Jungkook fully understood where his mistake lay. That day's practice ended in suffocating silence inside the car that carried them home, where Taehyung chose to sit in the front seat beside the manager. Jungkook could only stare at the back of Taehyung's head from the middle seat, reflecting on every interaction he had shared with Jimin, and realizing how careless he had been with his husband's feelings. The swim practice room became a silent witness to how jealousy could turn warmth into a long, unforgiving winter. That night, behind the closed dorm door, this major conflict was only just beginning, and Taehyung had no intention of resolving it easily. He wanted Jungkook to learn that love and work must indeed be separated, yet respecting one's partner was part of life's responsibilities that could never be ignored. Meanwhile, in his own room, Jimin might have worn a faint smile, seeing this drama as an entertaining spice, without caring how deeply it shattered the feelings of the two people he knew best. The tension unfolding between them felt deeply painful to witness, leaving a hollow emptiness in the hearts of anyone who valued the sincerity of their bond. Great hope was now placed on their maturity to embrace each other once again, because seeing Taehyung and Jungkook trapped in a misunderstanding like this was the last thing anyone who cared about them would want. No one wanted to see the laughter that usually filled the room replaced by cold silence, or loving glances turning into suffocating indifference. The wish for them to reconcile soon became a prayer that continued to flow, because this conflict felt far too heavy to be carried by a relationship as beautiful as theirs. Arguments and anger might be part of human dynamics, but for a couple who had weathered so many storms together, it was hoped that their pride would soften and warm communication would return. May Taehyung soon find peace within his heart, and may Jungkook be able to offer an explanation that heals, so that this storm of jealousy passes quickly and leaves behind a bond that is far stronger than before. Leave your positive comments here, The best comment will be pinned as a way to honor their love. Thank you to everyone who continues to support this channel. May God reward all of your kindness. This video reflects my personal opinion and interpretation. It is made for entertainment purposes only and does not represent confirmed facts.